Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the new fire paddles from Course Pickleball. This is a new Gen 2 thermoform lineup from them with some slight changes, so let's take a look to see what the differences are. The fire paddles are going to come in three different shape options: the EX, HX, and SX, which are their elongated, hybrid, and standard shape options respectively. They're all going to have this flat top, but they are wider at the top two corners, and they taper down to the throat, which is something that's not very common in flat top paddles. All three options come with 5.6-inch handles, and they all have 14mm core thicknesses. For the EX, we got a swing weight of 115 and a twist weight of 6.21. The HX, we got a swing weight of 112 and a twist weight of 6.4. And finally, for the SX, we got a swing weight of 110 and a twist weight of 6.65. Since these are all thinner 14mm paddles, the stability on these paddles is going to be a bit lower than average, while the maneuverability is also going to be faster, which is what we notice with the numbers here. The interesting thing about this flared flat top shape, however, is that it does push the balance point higher compared to regular flat top paddles. Now this can be a pro or a con depending on where you like your strike zone to be, but I personally was a big fan of it, especially on the hybrid HX option, since I do enjoy having my strike zone to be closer to the top of the paddle. Other than the shape, the biggest change Course has made with their fire paddles is the change in the surface materials and implementing a wider cell core. They call their surface carbon polyglass, which is basically a thin layer of fiberglass on top, followed by a red carbon polyester/titanium weave, and then a bottom layer of 3K carbon fiber. As for how this paddle plays, it makes the paddle very stiff, with above average pop. The surface materials combined with a thinner 14mm core make the paddle on the stiffer and poppier end for Gen 2 thermoform paddles. However, I didn't find the paddle to have a lot of power, especially when I came from hitting the PaddleTech ESQs and the Neonic Flare Prime X. While Course does market the Fire as their power lineup, I think they fall a bit more into the all-court category, especially if you play the paddle stock. While you do get more pop compared to most Gen 2 14mm paddles, it's lacking in power against paddles in the power category. That said, Course did design the paddle line with having weight customization in mind. They purposely made the fire paddles lighter with the intent for players to add their own perimeter weighting. So after my first few play sessions, I experimented with tungsten tape on the sides and ended up going with 0.35 ounces each at the 3 and 9 positions on the hybrid model, which is what I used the most. With more weight added, the power did go up, and I found the fire to approach power levels of the stock Flare Prime X. But even still, I wouldn't consider them a power paddle, because you can do the same for many other paddles as well. Adding weight is always going to increase the power for you. Overall, I think the fire paddles are still a good option for people who like that stiff, crisp feel and looking for more pop in their game. I do think they're a more advanced paddle because they're more difficult to control with their higher pop, and they do have a smaller sweet spot with their thinner core. But if you're able to rein both of those in, it can lead to some good firepower at the kitchen line. It's a paddle I do recommend adding weights to, and it requires some experimenting with different setups to find out what you as a player personally like, but I will say it can become a very good all-court leaning power 14mm paddle that you have a lot of control over in terms of its balance and weight distribution. The fire paddles retail for $169.99, and if you do want to pick one up, I've added my discount code here and a link to buy them in the video description below.